Thanks everybody for joining us. We know it's slightly delayed, but I think it's been a full day of conversations, right? And so I think we're kind of at the end of a very long but busy and prosperous day, first day here at MIP. And I think I want to thank the partnership that we have here at Fame Week to be able to do this panel, this really important panel about what we call the economy of the location, right? When we have film events, we talk a lot about trying to find money to make the film, to get the story to come alive. And then you have all of that, and then all of a sudden, what happens in principal photography? How do you spend the money? Which location do you go to? What facilities do you use? And then how does that all then actually contribute to the broader economy? So when I landed in Cape Town this Saturday, you get that letter at hotels and it says, welcome Miss Muendane to your room, and then all the rest of it. I must read this verbatim so that everyone can read it. It says, Cape Town welcomes all visitors to our cities. In bold letters, you do not need a permit to walk the streets. Ignore well-dressed fraudsters who insist you need a film permit to walk the streets of Cape Town. And that the permit is available at an ATM. This is a scam and is not true. So what I'm pointing out is that Cape Town has now officially become a film city, because that only happens in New York or in LA, where you get people come up to you and try and say, okay, for you two, you look so amazing, can I take a pic, you can be part of this film. So Cape Town's become one of those. But we're talking broadly about the continent of Africa, and there's just a few things that happened this week which is quite interesting. Fallout, a film that was shot in Namibia, has just won an award at the Location Managers Guild International. Dead Reckoning Part 1, which is partially shot in KZN and Mpumalanga and various other areas, also won an award at the Location Managers Guild. So we're starting to see our locations are starting to win awards around the world, which is really, really amazing. Not just the storyline, which is really cool. Nigeria is looking to build a film city. Looking at $100 million US happening there. Egypt also has a film city. So, our continent is growing in terms of facilities that are available. More recently, Gladiator 2, which was shot in Morocco, is expected to generate local revenue of approximately $30 million US, right? Which is expected to contribute directly to employment within that country. We hear that Zanzibar is entering the game in terms of studios. Cape Town has a studio, has two now. We can talk about that. Johannesburg has got studios galore, KZN also are coming through. So we'll talk about all these stats. When we talk about feature-length films, each feature-length film employs about 70 people on average minimum, like an average cost, right, as a base. And with economies such as Nigeria leading the charge in that, the number of productions released annually in Africa, we're looking at an impact of over 50 feature films a week in that particular country, right, in Nigeria. That's a lot of films. Employing well over 300,000 people directly and up to another million people indirectly as well, right? The economy reported back in the day, like making 1,800 films per annum. Now they're moving to 2,500. We're looking at amounts of billions and billions of rands. And according to the NFEF studies, local production came in at 7.1 billion for South Africa. Why am I painting this picture? It's not just about the story. I'm painting a beautiful picture about where we are as a continent, how much money is generated. But we're going to speak about where that money is spent and where those economies live. With me today, I've got representation from film commissions and also from the IDC to help me unpack the story. On my far left, I've got Lisa Mini from City of Cape Town, Principal Film Officer. On my kind of left, I've got Malibongo Nzuza from IDC. I've got Jacqueline Reina Setai from KZN, former KZN Film Commission, now Tourism and Film. They have merged into one. Then I also have Mac Mohoba from Gauteng Film Commission, and my name is Azania. So thank you so much for joining. I'm going to kick right into it. 4 big pillars we're going to discuss today is, locations and what are the benefits of hosting films in a city or a province or a country, the incentivization of it all? Is it just about the trade and industry, incentivization of coming to a country? And also the challenges in making inroads and impacts and how it impacts society. And also like success stories, right? We always want to hear that success story. And I think, we always remember Avengers coming into Gauteng, right? And how it eventually looks on the big screen. Everyone's like, oh my God, we really just... No. But, those kind of stories we're going to be discussing. So let me kick right into it. IDC, you are the national bank, and and we always look to you to help us find the story, all right? But from an economic point of view, what are the biggest drivers of the film value chain? What are the industries that get impacted from the studies that you've done?
Um, Greetings all. Thanks, Azania, for that. From our view, or what we have seen, it really starts maybe with the economic benefits that the region or the area where the film is shot, that comes through with the economic benefits that comes through with shooting a film in that specific area. In that it creates it brings more money into that area and thus creates more economic benefits for that area, but it doesn't end there. It's the impacts that the films are bringing into that area, because it's not just the spending in the film industry. It tends to roll over into other industries. I think the biggest benefits are it's usually the tourism sector, because in that area you will tend to require tourism establishments to host the crew that's going to be there shooting the film, and from there it tends to roll over to other sectors, i.e. your agro sector, which needs to supply food into that area. And maybe on the other angle, it's also the impacts that's there in terms of skills transfer into the crews that are around that area. I think in South Africa, usually what is pointed out is that we typically have crews that are quite good. They can produce high quality, but we probably do not have sufficient number of those crews, so you sort of have to wait for one crew to finish, and then if you do bring in those elements of shooting in South Africa, then you tend to develop more crews that can do that. So in terms of skills transfer, there is also a benefit coming through from shooting in a certain location. So I think overall there's quite a huge benefits that comes through from shooting in a specific location.
No, of course. Lisa, when it comes to the incentivization of film, right? What additional incentives do we need from a facilitation point of view to encourage more productions to come in? And how do you think that would then impact society? In order to what are the kind of incentives that you think should be added on? We have the national incentive. What else is opportune?
Hi, everybody. So, from a city point of view, we've been having a couple of shocks the last couple of years, which was first the drought, then it was COVID, and then last year we were struck with the writer strikes. But a couple of years ago, especially with COVID, the city of Cape Town thought, okay, we need to recover, and how would we assist the industry to get back on their feet? And since then, what they did is they dropped all the tariffs. So at the moment, nobody pays for a permit. You only pay for certain things that are outsourced by other service providers, like parking, for example, that's managed by different service providers. So if you film in the city of Cape Town, you have to unfortunately pay that. But all other municipal property that you want to film in, it's not being charged at the moment. And that is how the city of Cape Town was trying to assist the film industry and incentivize them to make sure that, first of all, we're getting the work back here, and of course, incentivize it in some way. As you do know, money always plays a part in enticing people to come film, and that has kind of been a space where the city was kind of lacking. And when we competed against KZN in Gauteng, which has got some money, and enticing the filmmakers to come and shoot in their regions with their T's and C's, it's kind of been a difficult place for us. So soon, and I will have a conversation about it tomorrow, just giving all the filmmakers a heads up, is there will be a small film fund, so we will be incentivizing projects going forward on a small scale, and a fund that we're hoping to grow over time and over the years. So I won't go into much of that right now, and I encourage you to come at 12 o'clock to have that conversation with me. But it does play an important role. Incentives globally plays an important role. And I think when we as film officers and film commissions look at the global ecosystem, it is a space we will be competing heavily in. We not only compete in province to province, but we also compete in country to country. And it is getting incredibly difficult out there to market ourselves as a destination and compete globally. So there's a whole lot of things, I mean, the value chain. When we look at the value chain, how can we assist filmmakers, whether it be even with rates with production, we try to encourage all our tourism places have special rates for people in accommodation, help our filmmakers land those, so where we can save costs and entice people to come to the city is how we've always done it. But having money is always a drawing card, and obviously as a country, the biggest thing drawing work here is our incentives at the moment. Also, the Western Cape is a largely servicing destination, so we do look at how we compete, in that space. And once again, the incentives is the biggest, but we try to find ways to assist the film industry to, decrease that budget spend or look at ways, in innovative ways to support it through tourism initiatives.
No, that's perfect. So, I mean, there's also the soft value of the sector, right? The soft values are the intangibles. And things like promoting the brand called South Africa, the brand of your country, not necessarily brand South Africa as an organization, but the brand of your country, from tourism and what we've spoken about that. And in terms of making filmmaking a destination perspective and making it attractive, I want to come to TAFA, which is Tourism and Film Agency within KZN. When you look at the soft value of it, how much impact does that actually have with our economy? I mean, you also sit on the board of the Association of Film Commissions International. So I think from that point of view, what are the indirects?
Afternoon, everybody. We've just merged. It happened in May. We used to be the Kwa-Zulu Natal Film Commission, and now we're known as the Kwa-Zulu Natal Tourism and Film Authority. So tourism in the province merged with film, and the big idea or the goal was that these are complementary kind of industries, and that we could benefit both film and both tourism to attract people to our province, so via film productions. And so we've done quite a lot of work over the years. The KZN Film Commission, when it was called that, was in existence for 10 years. And we had done quite a lot of work to incentivize filmmakers to come through. And so now we're known as a region where you can come and shoot, and you can do various things. You can reimagine certain locations in our regions. You can make New York or a Paris cafe come alive in our region. And you can also just live and kind of take what is unique about us. I like to use the example of our big aquarium, and that we have in Durban, eThekwini, and how often when you look at kind of family dramas, the aquarium becomes kind of a trope that's used in movies, where the dad takes his little kid out to to reconcile or have a discussion about the divorce that happened in the family. So, we like to think of promoting our locations in that way, where the story value is also kind of integrated in what you see, the visuals. The soft benefits are really about diplomacy, particularly if you have international visitors come or international productions. Soft diplomacy in that we can sell our African story through various ways because we don't just have one story. We have unique ways of selling our story. For example, in the KZN region, sport is of a lot of value. A lot of big sport icons that we know actually come from our region. And if you think of the Sharks and them as a great kind of team and the way that they kind of, not the underdogs, but just have such value. And then we have this slogan that we've created around the boka, which is they don't know what we know, kind of thing. So, just representing and putting forward the value of sport in our region and what it does. And then we see, outsiders see our region as a nation building, kind of social cohesive area. So diplomacy is very important because also the news around Africa is often very negative. And when you have people and you can show them that, that's very positive. Also, filmmakers meeting each other is often a lot of magic, right? When you just meet different people, and you can do this via the familiarization tours that we do, or when we bring people to the Durban International Film Festival or DFO, and also benefits around municipalities, our own kind of, our own government, and in the way they learn, they take information from the work that happens in their municipalities and then understand film in that way, as well as traditional leaders and people who own farms on behalf of, not farms, land on behalf of other people. So there are a variety of benefits from a social perspective, economically, and from a friendship perspective, the idea that we can connect across oceans. I'll leave it at that for the moment.
Sure. When we speak about induced economies, I mean, it stretches even into logistics, it stretches into our health service, it stretches into, and we always have this example of literally the flowers that come to set, right? Even as little props, other industries, also impacts construction, also impacts legal services. It impacts, from a set point of view, there's carpentry, it impacts clothing, it impacts so many other economies, right? So I just want to come to Gauteng. What examples, from your point of view, are strong examples, are the unexpected opportunities from filmmaking?
All right, thanks, Azania. Hi, everyone. I think really Gauteng does bring a multifaceted environment in terms of locations. You've got your wildlife that you wouldn't expect to have within Gauteng, and that has grown quite a lot in terms of usage. We still have, obviously, the old mines that are also still in great demand. But I think latching on to what Jacqueline and others were saying is that I think on a cultural side, we also drive that. There's so much experience that, especially when we have our international productions coming through, whether it's from a food part of it, taking them indeed to various, entertainment or social gatherings within townships. But I think largely it's also making sure that they're actually able to access various production facilities. So that's what we like to say, that in Gauteng you're able to find just about everything, except the ocean, of course, or the aquarium. Tongue-in-cheek to my colleagues here. But I think we also find we are servicing a lot of commercials. So this is more on the short form side. Obviously, the service industry is benefiting considerably in that regard, and the hospitality sectors. But I think largely is that there is a lot of facilities, and they are able to indeed find the necessary locations and ultimately also the weather to be able to complete that shoot.
No, of course. When you speak about in investments, right, within the film value chain, where are the opportunities for more investment? Because again, it becomes that third economy. It becomes a fourth. It goes into deep as a fifth economy. Where does investment need to take place within that?
I think, sorry, the other thing that I didn't mention is, which is quite strong, and I think it's across South Africa, is that we do have also very strong, as part of the service industry, strong crew base. So I think if there is indeed more investment in crew that can take on big projects when, you know, the need arises, so that, you know, the international productions don't have to bring across, you know, their various line managers and other technical persons. So I would say that is one. I know the talk of, you know, video production and reality. So I think we can try and find ways to merge those or to at least enhance, so that we are indeed also able to take on opportunities. We've got great animation studios within the country. We need to be able to also invest in those facilities and in those technologies. I think, yeah, I'll pause there. I think the value chain, on the service side, I think hospitality and service do get a lion's share.
Yeah.
And we just need to see indeed more players in that space and competitiveness.
Sure. Lisa, you know, a lot of people want to list their locations. I mean, I always get someone saying to me, I've got a house and I want to list my house. I'm like, okay. And I always say, okay, fine, there are pros and cons to this thing. So when a location owner wants to list their property, right, what benefits do we promote towards it? And is it just about the shoot rate, or what else is beneficial to the location owner?
Okay, so first of all, if a company comes to me and says they've got a property and they want to list it, and how do they go about it? First of all, I always encourage them to get connected with the association. So there's the Association of Locations Agents, NALA, what is it?
Nala.
National Association of Locations Agents, NALA. Listed in the association is a number of companies that represent private property, okay? So you can list your property with them. They are basically responsible for you negotiate what that rate's going to be, and then they obviously add their markup, and that's how they would then position it to or advertise it to the production crew. So they will have the databases, they will do the marketing, they're responsible for all of those things. There are a couple of apps also in the ecosystem. Apps, basically, there's something called FilmSet, which Azania at Locations Africa, it's a very new technology. So if you've got a company, you can contact the FilmSet people, list your property on the system, and get your information out there. I mean, basically our mandate is we're not responsible for really us, more focused on municipal property, and that's what we manage and able to permit. So when it's private property, we come into play as a city film officers in ensuring that your are within the laws. So we've got filming bylaws, and in the filming bylaws, as private property, you need to decide wherever you're based in South Africa, what that law is. Are you allowed to have filming in your private property? Okay, that's something a lot of private people don't know about, and it is something that if you want to market it, you need to ensure that you are allowed to do so. If you're not allowed to do so, you need to get into contact with your local municipality and find out how you become zoned for your filming. City of Cape Town is in the process of changing our filming bylaws, so be sure to look out for that. Speak to the other permit officers to find out what their regulations are in their jurisdictions. So that's really, yeah. And then obviously there's things like Locations Africa. We work very closely with Azania. She's really trying to market the Africa, all the locations, whether it be private, municipal, whatever. Just really showcasing what we have, the diversity of buildings, of parks, of landscapes, really, all of it. She's trying to market Africa to the world. And so if you want to get on board, Zane is an amazing person. She's connected to the Locations Guild of LMG.
LMG,
Yeah.
That's fine.
I always can't remember. So we're really trying to get connected to the international space as film officers, as film commissioners, learning best practice in getting ourselves out there as South Africa, as a jurisdictions, as a private property owners, and all of those things. So we're all interconnected, you know. But I think as a private property owner, that's the place where you start. Nala. Get connected. If you don't know, get connected to us and we will share the information. Yeah.
You know, community is a really important part of what we do. And talking about municipalities, I'm going to come to you, Jackie. How do you encourage municipalities to participate? Because again, filming takes place most times in the urban areas in the cities. But then every now and then, there is a rural shoot. There's a shoot out in a very far environment. And no, we don't want to take the city people, city dwellers, city extras, or, you know, people, you know, artisans from city into outlying areas, right? So how do you encourage the municipalities to compete, right, for the attention? And how do you ensure that they respond, and how do they benefit from that? Let's talk about community and those multipliers.
Yeah, community and municipality participation is often underrated. People don't really consider municipal authority. They deal with commissions or city organizations and do not think about how the municipalities are involved in that. An important way of bringing them in, we found, is through training location scouts. There is this professional designation called a location scout where you undergo training, you learn about the very niche and beautiful and unknown areas in your region that you operate in. And often when people come to our country or come to our region, they want to be connected to location scouts. And location scouts are the specialists. At KZN of Tourism and Film Authority, we train, and we've worked with Azania, who's really the expert around training location scouts, and she has an amazing database to ensure that happens. We also work government to government because we all have the same goal as whether we're provincial government or municipal government. So we underwent, as an example, training with our municipal partners. And once they understand the impact on their own areas, that the money flows all over the place, and it flows very quickly. You know, you can use your own local hairdressers or your own local hair salon, or you can really position your own cafes for the purposes of authenticity, where it's not just about the green tilting hills, but really about the commerce in your own industry and how you can position that. To not undersell your own businesses in your own community because you think it's small. When we start speaking to our municipal partners, and in most of these offices, there's a tourism officer, and tourism and film obviously go together. And really, it's about education, and it's about consistent contact and forming relationships. And we found that to be quite successful. And then we do further consultation, because you can't just extract from a community or location. It's just not the way, the ethos of our country, where you just go and take. So you also have to give back. And always encourage our location scouts to talk about that, and also our productions to leave something behind. The idea is that you leave something behind. What is the need of a community? You engage with them, you do consultations, and is it around helping their school buildings, or is it about helping their clinics or whatever, where you consider how you can bring brands in who want to have contact with communities that they don't have contact with, and see what you can leave behind. And municipalities also love that kind of engagement, because often they're very far away from brands. How will they ever engage with the Coca-Cola or whoever is agency that manages all of these retailers. So it often is quite a nice kind of deal or a positioning that you can make via your municipalities. And once you have that relationship, it brings forth fruit. What am I trying to say? It bears fruit. Thank you so much. Thanks so much.
Yeah. So last year at the conference we had a really interesting talk by IDC, by Gagisho. And he spoke about the amount of money that's actually spent on location, which was quite interesting. I mean, it teetered between 10 and around 15, 17% of the below the line portion of the budget. So Malibongo, what I wanted to talk to you about is in terms of the research and the stats that you gather, all right? How do we get that information? How can productions support in getting the information so we can really start to build a reference point in terms of the power of the location, right? I mean, you've spoken about the NFF studies in terms of it's about 2.8. I mean, in terms of the
Multiplier.
proportionalities, but in terms of stats that are given, how are they obtained? Through which mechanisms are they obtained? And how and where are you not winning? What do you need from production to help you get the stats in terms of the spend and location?
Okay. Obtaining the numbers for what has happened
Yeah.
around the locations, it's usually based on the actual spend
Yeah.
that has happened in the locations that we have funded.
Yeah.
So it's mainly based on the information that's in the IDC database.
Right.
It's a real information of what happens. It's not numbers that are coming from budgets. Say we are budgeting so much to be spent within a location. So for such stats, we actually take the real numbers after the spend. So when you know exactly how much has been spent, I think that is still sitting in that range, 10 to 18%. It's still around about there. And maybe coming back to how exactly can we get assistance? It's from the producers to perhaps note as they do the spending. I think they will also be reconciling those numbers for submission to DTIC for those applications that are funded by the DTIC as well. Is to maybe put intentionally put efforts to really quantify how much is spent in the location, because it does provide a good insight on what needs to be done to maybe increase that, so that the locations they do benefits in those spent. So yeah, the stats does come from the real numbers, and it's quite useful for future investments.
So, Mac, what are the success stories in Gauteng in terms of, the big budgets? What does it look like, rand to rand, rand to cent? What does it look like in terms of success stories?
Thanks, Azania. I think really in terms of the success stories that we've been able to ensure that we are part and parcel of big productions. I mean, there's been Shaga Lembe, which has taken place recently. Really, the replication, the set design that took place, the employment that obviously took place was indeed accredited to those who are part and parcel of, or who are living in Gauteng and who are practitioners in Gauteng. But we are indeed finding that, there's a lot of obviously series that also take place within our region. But we are finding that a number of series are also finding that they're reaching, I won't say end of life, but they're finding their competitiveness, and obviously going to other regions such as KZN are finding beneficial because of some of the incentives. So there we are indeed also trying to say, as a region, can we have a uniform rates, for instance, that we can put across our various local authorities. We've also seen that there's, going back to commercials, that there's a great interest in, I think, the accessibility of some of the locations. We've got a temple that was to be shot. There was a big, interest. It was really literally about to go into production when the agreements were not quite, and obviously because it was going to be for commercial use, so some of the research also needed to be done, and some of the, how can I say, the fine lines and the T's and C's to be ironed out. So that could have also been another great win,
Yeah.
because this was also a temple which was competing with obviously the temples that you find in Asia and the real mainstream Buddhist temples. So we are indeed finding that in terms of also those on the streaming platform, we still have quite a lot of productions that are indeed still taking place in Gauteng. And I think in terms of rand value, we are seeing that it is indeed beneficial for the productions. I think box office, we all know, I think there has been a decline there in terms of those projects that get completed, and we're just not seeing the number of bums on the seats, so to say, that need to give back to the production spend. Yeah.
100%. If you have any questions, just put up your hand at any time, and then we can take in some questions as well. So we could just go on with the conversation. Coming back to probably the most, sorry. We speak about tourism a lot. I'm going to come back to you, Jackie. Now that we are seeing this marriage between tourism and film, how can we empower the tourism industry to be able to understand what this film industry is about? Because with the tourism industry, obviously there is flights, there's transportation, the people are working within the hotels, they are able to, those become those induced economies. But how now, what can we teach tourism to be able to facilitate and to get the rewards that they need?
In the tourism value chain, which are often below the line, while they are below the line items, which is accommodation, as well as other line items like ground transport and also domestic flights. So it's very valuable for these businesses to get people into their rooms, because that's how they make their money. So from that perspective, we found that accommodation on B&Bs or guest houses really understand kind of the value. It's a financial value to them. They have to give reduced rates in exchange for kind of bulk bookings, and eventually they make their money. What I saw, what a gap is connecting kind of the tourism industry as we understand it to perhaps the commercials industry, where there are very big budgets available, or to kind of branding themselves in hotel chains, branding themselves and the hotel ownerships, where the money or what they get back is the eyeballs, really. And that's something that we want to kind of push, the idea that you think of your film not as a commercial, but as integrated kind of branding, and to see how that can be of value to you as a tourism destination, which I think has a lot of potential for growth and makes it a more attractive business proposition than just cutting your rates in exchange for incidental exposure in a film, or to have your guest house booked for 2 months. What was the other part of the question?
No, it's in terms of how can tourism actually help the film? I mean, yes, it's bulk bookings and everything, or let me turn the other way around. In terms of trying to get the statistics in, how can the film industry empower tourism with the knowledge, right? What happens sometimes in film is, you shoot at a restaurant, and it's happened a lot of times internationally where a particular table has been secured as a film set, right? And it's people come to that table for a romantic dinner because they saw it on a film, which means that that restaurant continuously gets feet through the door, right?
Destination tourism.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly that.
We see it with French cafes. We saw it with Lord of the Rings in New Zealand. Yes, no, very true. The idea that something of significance happens in a film and then turn it into an after experience where it becomes a tourist site. Yeah, obviously tourism can be very valuable around that, particularly with natural, like our big five
Yeah.
game sites that we have that can be used in that way, or the Mandela capture site, etc.,
Yeah.
where then tourism picks up. After that, I saw some very good activations that was done in Ireland recently that I think is such a simple thing but so nice to do to encourage that kind of tourism, is where the Screen Scotland just had the major cast come in and do very specific editorials about a museum where they were and talking about how they love the art in this museum, which is a nice way of then having a campaign, an actual campaign for your tourism colleagues to take over, using material, linking it to the talent who are recognizable, and then being able to promote your own local areas like museums, etc.
So essentially what you're saying is that the scripts to start becoming intentional about the location that they're using, right, is what you're saying. When, pardon?
Or the tourism product.
Yeah, all the tourism products, right? I just want to come. There's always an upside, and we always like kind of promote the upside. But Lisa, from your experience, when does a location not benefit, or when does a society not benefit from a particular shoot? What are those, and how can we, as producers, be aware of those issues in order to just prevent them? Because again, it impacts down the line whether somebody comes back to that location or that location opens itself up again.
Not benefit. I'm trying to think of an idea of when it doesn't benefit. I mean, look, I suppose in the municipalities, when you heading out into the municipalities, some of the stuff that the communities complain about is that the crews come with everything.
She can have it.
So besides obviously the bed nights that are you impact there and stuff like that, but the communities themselves don't get opportunities sometimes, or like smaller catering companies want to work on the shoots, but they come with the entire catering crew because they understand the business and what's required on the set. So I think sometimes the local businesses don't get opportunities to play a part, but I think purely because sometimes the location scouts, the producers don't know what's available in those locations, so there's opportunities missed there. So when we work with the municipalities in the different regions, like before in my previous job, we used to say, have a list of businesses. So when your location scouts come into the region, then you can say we've got X, Y, Z. So you don't have to bring your toilets from Cape Town. You can hire your toilets there on set. You know, also like if it's a smaller job, like a stills job that doesn't require the expertise of the big catering companies on a big job, like a TV series that's there for like 6 months type of thing. Is then maybe like what catering companies do you have, and then they can outsource that small little job to the caterers, local caterers there, and try to encourage economic impact that way. So I suppose when they go into a new territory and they don't know what's available, the smaller businesses loses out opportunities there. That's why we encourage the municipalities to get organized, to know how to sell their regions, that they understand what services they can provide, and they have to educate the location scouts and producers or companies coming in there to film, so that they can support the communities in that way.
100%. Are there any questions at the moment? There's a question here. Can't hear you. Okay.
Sorry,
Go for
it's
it.
a question for IDC. I just wanted to quickly check, going back to stats. I wanted to know that when production companies do report, what sort of expenditure qualifies as a stat? Because, you know, like the entire budget doesn't really qualify as a stat for what was spent in this location. You get? So I'm asking, what sort of line items essentially do we qualify as a production value for locations?
It's typically what is spent on say the tourism establishments, which will then include say your food and bev if there is some spent in that location. The rentals around the area, if they use the services that's coming from around the area, trying to think of something else. But it is the expenditure of that nature that becomes the stats for the location to say this is how much was spent in that location, and yeah, we see it as a benefit for the location.
Yeah. Generally, just to add on that, so it's anything that is hired within that space. So it's almost like a radius thing. So, say you're shooting here in Camps Bay, it's not a stat from Somerset West, so to speak. So whatever you're spending within that space, whether it's spent on transportation within there, with, like you said, food and beverage, and yes, it can be accommodation, but then also, you know, what other SMMEs, what kind of expenditure was with SMMEs and all of that type of situation. Any other questions? Oh, there's a question there. What was my other question?
Hi, it's Cindy from FilmSet. Lisa, you were speaking earlier about us as a community, or the locations community, and Azania, the work that you're doing as to promote South Africa as a premier locations destination. And so my question is, how are we collectively promoting South Africa as a premier film destination? What is the messaging? And then how do we tap into that, and how do we then amplify that messaging?
Anyone want to take that?
Did you ask me or?
Anyone can take it.
Okay, so maybe we can just all add on. I mean, I suppose from a national perspective, like these festivals that the National Film and Video Foundation targets, and a lot of the film officers, we try to work together in those spaces. So we go to South Africa, and everybody is promoting the jurisdiction. And then there's some like shows that Azania is putting into the system, but we are also all working together, to, you know, trying to identify what's going to be the best for us to work together. There's a lot of interest with the Association of Film Commissioners International. We're trying to align ourselves with the global ecosystem to learn best practice as a destination, to see how we can tap into the global connections and promote Africa collectively. And something else that Zania has been spearheading is also trying to get all the African film commissioners in the room so we can start strategizing how we can assist each other, which has been really amazing, and I'm looking forward to being part of that whole space. But then obviously, like, I mean, you guys got the cool stuff, you know, the tech stuff, so we need to incorporate that into future thinking, because I don't think it's anything like that, I don't know, I think in the world.
Yeah.
So,
Go for it.
One of the ways that we're doing it is to say we're open for business with co-productions. We want the continent to come here, and we want the rest of the world to come here, because there's a benefit around our exchange or our exchange rate, and also just how the ocean meets the desert, and how the greenery meets the rocky areas. So we want that messaging to go out, that we're open for business when it comes to co-productions, and we have a very specific strategy around that, where we want filmmakers to meet each other, and for filmmakers to be really open about approaching film commissions, approaching film offices, approaching Locations Africa, to find out how they can speed date with other filmmakers across the world, and how they can make those kind of story connections. And once they've made those story connections, to approach us and say, we've made these kind of story connections, this is how we want to realize it. Because it benefits both regions. So it's not about taking work away from specific regions. The spend is incredible because you then have a co-production spend in your own region, and the way that money flows down to different vendors and service providers. And it takes a long time to get a co-production done, but the minute you have it ready, you have your funding plan ready, you have the IDC assisting you with cash flow to finish your principal photography, then it is a beautiful thing to see. And it also means that there's more co-production business coming your way. So I would say that's the messaging I would like to take. We're open for business when it comes to co-productions. Thanks.
Yeah, and maybe for alignment as well as a country, we do have brand SA. They tend to be there when you're going for the international film festivals to be there and represent South Africa in essence. I think it is important to perhaps align with them so that we know how we are how we are branding the country as a whole, as a location. So brand SA will be part of what you perhaps need to touch base so that we are properly aligned as the country.
Okay, so any
And to apply, sorry to interrupt, and to apply to us for marketing and distribution funding, because that's how you often offer festival funding. That's how you get to Cannes, because the NVF is very smart around the way that they put us together, Cannes, for example. So we all like representing Africa. And then the film commissions, that's what we do. We have a fund that allows you to apply to us, for you to attend these film festivals, for you to go and make co-productions happen, or to get a sales agent, etc. So, and then we also sit with you and we have a discussion about what the messaging is. We want you to have the meetings beforehand so you know exactly who you're seeing, because the 4 international festivals operate like that. It's not a go and see. It's a go and do business. So you have to have like your meeting set up, your picture set up. We want to see your deck, etc. And we want you to come back with hard leads. Thank you.
Okay, there's a question there. It's probably the last question we're going to take, so then we need to wrap up.
I just want to understand, in terms of talking about location and destination, if we are the artists or the filmmakers trying to come here, they're struggling to get visa, how are you guys helping in trying to, open up this bottleneck so that people can come and get the business done and live with their content? 2 days ago, I was in a meeting. There's an artist coming here with 1 million rands to shoot a music video. They denied them visa, and they don't want to come back here again. They're planning to go to Tanzania, Mauritius to do this work, and it's affecting the industry. And, I don't know what you guys are doing too.
Yeah, I think, did you get that? Because I think it's, go for it, Lisa.
Yeah, Nelson, from where did you say he was denied? Nigeria. Yeah. So, I mean, over the years, we've been having some stucknesses with Nigeria. So, first of all, I mean, we do have Fiverr. Fiverr is the film industry visa assistance. Western Cape companies, or actually any company, South African company, can be registered with Fiverr, and they do assist filmmakers and the film industry to get in here a lot easier. Okay, so first of all, you need to register yourself. It's a once-off registration fee. They assist you with the entire process, and it's actually a shortcut version for filmmakers having to come in and out of the country. So if you're based in the Western Cape, you can also speak to Westro. They've got some sponsorships available for companies that are based here to register with Fiverr. But then with regards to the red tape, there's a lot of the government organizations that's looking at those kind of issues. I can speak for Westro. When I worked there was the red tape units. There's a DDAT, red tape. There's a lot of conversation going around trying to unblock that stucknesses with the embassies in other parts of Africa. So it is in the ecosystem. There is problems, but what you can do is you can contact us, and we can also try and send you to the right places to facilitate that kind of problems. And when you do have some stucknesses with your international clients coming in, then do let us know timeously, or not 2 days before the time. if the person has applied for a visa, and we can try and see if we can get to the right people and assist you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think just to wrap up, I'm going to start with you and Lisa. You've just spoken about I guess, a national issue, right? So where can national government help us to ensure that there's a lot more location shoots? Yeah, national. How can national support us? They have incentives, but what else can be done for location shooting?
Okay, so first of all, some of the research that we did a few years ago was that certain government organizations still don't understand the film industry. So I think it's very important for us to start educating them a lot more. With all the changes that's going on, interesting times for us ahead with our new ministers in place. But from our National Department of Trade and Industry, we need to get our incentives working well, so that we can attract more work, because we're competing on a global landscape, and it's imperative that we compete in that space, because we're losing a lot of work because of that competition globally. And then secondly, we need a lot more money for skills development. We need a lot more focus on ease of doing business. There's also a lot of over-regulation, I think. Every location you go to, especially in Cape Town, is if you go film at the V&A, you must get a permit there. If you film at the City of Cape Town property, you need to get a permit there. If you go into Transnet, you need a permit there. If you go to film at the airport. So there is a lot of paperwork to do. And sometimes our location scouts do get boggled down, especially if there's stucknesses in the process. It slows things down, and it doesn't really create a space of doing business easily. So I think if we start looking at our processes and how we can streamline those processes, then I think that would be beneficial to our filmmakers and producers.
No problem. Thank you. Malibong, on your side, how else can the SOEs, the PICs, NEFs, IDC, how can you come together to ensure that shoot on location also is able to access particular kind of funding or more support? What else is out there, and what's possible? What can we ask? Can we ask you for? I'm about to put you on there.
At this stage, the strategy within the IDC, it is really to fund in these spaces to ensure that the locations are essentially attractive. Our strategy does include the studios, it's the film studios, and on that regard, we are actually seeing quite an uptick on the number of applications that are coming through. I'll say it's not all the provinces, but maybe Eastern Cape, KZN, Gauteng, we do have applications from there, Free State, Western Cape as well. So we are seeing that the entrepreneurs are actually want to develop facilities in these locations, so that we can get this location to the standard that's required. We also do look at gear, or the renting of gear for these areas, because some shoots cannot happen in other areas, because you really need to move with all the gear from quite afar to that location. And there's also the issue around training and the crews.
Yeah.
So if you've got the international filmmakers coming through, they sort of have to wait for a certain crew to finish working there before they can come into that. So what we are having is probably maybe the integrated studios, where it's more a campus. You have a training facility, it's a studio, and obviously we need to ensure that it is well equipped with the proper infrastructure, such that when the shooting is done on the location, they can actually do the post-production in those studios without really taking that back to wherever they'll be coming from, those producers. So there is effort and say the willingness within, say, the IDC to put money into such development, to ensure that our locations are proper and competitive with everyone in the world, essentially. Yes.
Perfect. Jackie, on your side, location owners always face some form of challenges. What are you putting into place that helps location owners to, first of all, say yes, but to support them? What are you doing?
We're supporting them with marketing and branding. So we have a website like most, I think. We're moving into technical access. So we have a website that shows the various locations that we have, that at a granular level, so it's not just looking at it from a macro level. And we encourage our location owners to be in contact with us so we can update our site so that there's availability there. In terms of working with them closely with our tourism departments as well, to make sure that they're on our books, that we know what they're offering, that we also know what's unique. We've realized that standing out and being unique is a very important message to give to location owners, in that what is it that you're offering that nobody else can offer, or what can you provide that nobody else can provide, which is just gives you a competitive edge and also allows us to promote you as a location to external producers or international producers in a way that's of more value, because we've realized that when we speak to international studios or we speak to producers, what they really want to know is what's unique about you. So they know you have the basics, but what can they use that will really make their story pop? So that's what I would say. And also just education. We did a booklet with you around training for our location scouts, and I think there is a gap now that we also merge with tourism to also do film training with our location owners, so that it becomes second nature to them, and also that we can use the same film language. You know, it's important for filmmakers, for you, if you can't speak the language, then people think you're not in the industry. So I also think we as commissions can assist in that way.
And then finally, Gauteng, you're big on SMME development in the different corridors of Gauteng. How can we, I think, as a film industry, work with you to upskill within the different corridors those SMMEs that don't understand film, but you know they can benefit from film?
All right. I think indeed there is a lot of mentorship programs that we're seeing, because we see that indeed our creatives, people are starting to shoot on different scales of camera. And we want to obviously get, especially our young and up-and-coming creatives, to really get access into the industry. But I think those mentorship programs need to be kind of sustainable. We want to see production houses as well taking not just the initiative, but making sure that they're adding some sort of a budget as part of their future development of line producers, for instance, to say that we will be, instead of just a 1 year, it's going to be 18 months, to make sure that those interns or those people who are coming on set as juniors can then be able to have the necessary time and opportunities to either stay within that organization or production house, or be able to obviously get work elsewhere. So I think profiling as well, started to do as GFC, the crew, to ensure that they are well known, so profiling them, making sure that the service industry knows about the different and the grading that and the quality of basically crew we've got. And I think that will then ultimately will want to build up a database of, from directors, producers. We've got our script developers as well. So we want to just make sure that, I think, the mentorship that is taking place in various pockets, it's not just the GFC. We understand that, different entities and different production houses do have some form of mentorship programs and internships, but it's to ensure that these are sustainable or they can be absorbed. The absorption rate needs to, I think, be higher, and we need to try and find ways to either support that, and it's a pity our sisters at National, but we're glad the bank is here. We need to be able to have those, whether it's also incubation centers. How do we have that? The animation guys, I think, are getting more structured. They're formulating and working with each other closely to ensure that, those who are trained are exposed to bigger projects and are able to then be off-taken and absorbed.
So I think that's the end of our conversation, everyone. But I think at the end of the day, shooting on location has unnecessary downflows into the fifth economies. It not only impacts a particular venue, like ICC, for instance, it also impacts the individuals that work in that space. It impacts the individuals that drive our, literally physically drive the production teams to set. It impacts the bread that we eat on set. It impacts the flowers that come on set. It impacts the clothes, the textiles industry. It impacts the accounting industry. It impacts the set construction industry. It impacts the steels industry, the wood industry. It impacts every other industry in terms of shooting on location. Yes, shooting within a studio also has those impacts as well. But it's like, what can we do as a collective society of filmmakers to ensure that when we do choose a location, how do we look at the immediate economy around us and say, okay, if I am looking for props, I know that I can bring my expert prop person in, but how do we then, in terms of SME development, pair them up to make sure that the props environment or the props industry also can grow in that sense? How can we not just have interns in to make coffee, but also teach them and show them that within their families they can bring other artisans within that family? How can we start looking at those economies? So filmmaking is, yes, it's about story, but the bigger portion of filmmaking is about the economy of where you're shooting. And that is the true power of your story and the true power of filmmaking. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for our panel.